Thank you, Sonia, and what a great job you did on that HARP report.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for the wonderful intro. And, well, thanks. I looked up some information, and I found all these different things, and that's the way that I connected the dots. It doesn't prove that HARP was used, but it shows that it's possible.
Well, and it does, and it's very interesting information. And, we have been talking on this show about scalar weapons and these things for a long time. And just because you don't have a smoking gun in your hand doesn't mean that all roads don't lead to a logical conclusion. It's not that it happened, it's that it could happen, right, Sonia? And if they can do it, they generally will do it.
Well, there were quite a few things about what happened in Haiti and what are still happening that are, as far as I'm concerned, it's all one big smoking gun that goes back decades. They've been involved in there for a long time. They've ousted their government. They've done there were so many things in the history. It's not like people don't realize how involved the U.S. has been with Haiti and for how long, and the things that they've been doing to keep that country down. And so then this happens, and it just looks like, oh, look at that, they had an earthquake. And it's just a coincidence they happen to discover all this oil. Well,
yeah.
And now they're going to lease it, offshore leasing to the big oil companies, and that's just convenient for the globalists, but they had nothing to do with it, and they just happen to be running a drill. And there's the induction magnetometer from the University of Tokyo, that the HARP induction magnetometer that shows like very high electrical frequency activity, but it's like it monitors HARP activity. So HARP was extremely active that day. And people would say, well, that's because there was an earthquake, things were going on with magnetic fields. But there are earthquakes all over the world all the time. And this thing just showed this in the 2 days just
Wasn't
before.
there some data deleted by HARP Central in the aftermath of all of this?
That's right, yeah. They deleted the files from the 11th. It was January 12th. So it was January 11th. They deleted the files, but not only on that instrument, but on another one. And I don't know if they tried to say, oh, it was just some freak accident. Oops, it just disappeared. But for that to happen at two different instruments for the same day, obviously it's been deleted. I don't know if it's back up now.
There is a playbook. We see. I like how you mentioned the 7/7 London underground bombings. Of course, we've done these exhaustive research capacities on Madrid, the Madrid bombings, on the 9/11 attacks, and they're running these drills in everything. In fact, this has almost spawned an industry on the internet to watch all the drills, because wherever they're having a drill, we start assuming that maybe there'll be a terrorist attack following.
Yeah, it's scary when they have drills. You never know. When they were running NLE-09, the national level exercise involving foreign troops last year in the States, a lot of people were really on edge about that. But, it turned out that it was just a drill. So sometimes a drill is a drill. But when they do this kind of a false flag attack, like let's be honest, like what happened in London, there is a drill running. Everything is in place.
Well, we have that clip. The guy that was running the drills, Peter Power, actually came out and accidentally, I don't know if all this stuff is an accident. Do you, Sonia? He just admitted that they were running drills to blow up terrorist attacks at the very same precision points where the things went off.
Exactly.
But if they didn't do that in 9/11, and then, of course, we have Oklahoma City to look at, if they didn't do it in all of these places, I guess we wouldn't be so suspicious. But all we hear about is incompetence, coincidences, and then they call us conspiracy theorists. I've yet to see the government actually prove their case regarding 9/11. We've got these 9/11 trials. We had a talk show host earlier talking about how we have to kill KSM. And I was asking the question when we started this show, how did Khalid Sheikh Mohammed perform these drills? Because we heard the NEED tapes, the NORAD tapes. Later, they were released to Vanity Fair. I don't know if you saw those, but they were confused. Is this real?
Yeah.
Is this real, or is this really happening, or is this the part of the drill? They didn't know, and they were paralyzed because of it. Good job, Osama bin Laden. How did he manage to pull that off?
Yeah, I got to say, now, look, like there probably is such a thing. Look, they terrorists, is there such a thing as terrorists at all? Personally, I guess there is, but I don't know if you would really call them terrorists. If you define a terrorist as someone who blows themselves up, as a pressure tactic, well, yes, there are terrorists. But then again, the Vietnamese did the same thing, and did they call them terrorists? You know what I mean? I think it's just like it's just a word that's being used now to define certain kind of like, I don't know if you'd call it guerrilla warfare or.
Well, no, if you win, you're
kind
a
of
freedom
tactic.
fighter and you're fighting for democracy and liberty. If you lose, you're a terrorist.
Yeah, but usually like the Japanese had kamikaze pilots, so were they also terrorists? It's just our definition has changed. But let's say, is there really such a thing as terrorists? Is there such a thing as people who blow themselves up? For sure. Yeah. Is there such a thing as international terrorism? I don't know, because every time there is such an incident, it looks like an inside job. And the other thing is, Osama bin Laden and the 9/11 guys, if you were going to attack America, why would you go the route of going through an airport, the highest security, and put yourself through this kind of risk and have to take on NORAD just to do an attack? Because if they really wanted to attack America and they had 20 guys who are already in America, they could have just put bombs on themselves and blown themselves up all over the place. You know what I'm saying? I think what they do with this whole airplane thing is they play on people's fear of flying. People are afraid to be in a plane in the first place, so they tend to use that, and it's always about airport security. Everybody's afraid to be trapped in a plane that gets hijacked or blown up. But, normally in the past when there were hijackings, there's always a political objective, right? Or there's some kind of an objective. And it's usually pretty clear-cut. Like people would hijack a plane and say, we won't give it back to you until we get X, Y, Z. But what was the objective of 9/11? You know what I'm saying? There's no clear objective other than, we don't like you because you're free.
Whatever the objective was by Osama bin Laden, we helped him fulfill every part of it. If what we're being told is true, if what we're being told is not true, then cost-benefit analysis comes into play, and they benefited on multiple levels, and that was the construction of the running program.
It doesn't make any sense, though, as a military strategy to go and just blow up one building just to show the Americans that you're capable. It doesn't make sense because all that did was bring the Americans into Afghanistan. So what would they accomplish by doing that? People don't just, it just doesn't make any sense logically. Like, for example, if you're in a country that's being occupied and you're fighting against them and you don't have the kind of weapons to actually fight on their level, and then you use terror tactics or pressure tactics like random blowing up of buses and things like that. People do that in certain situations, but they have a military objective. They're trying to kick somebody out. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to attack their military forces in a different way. But to just take this, organize this huge thing and go up against airport security and NORAD for the sole purpose of blowing up this one building, which would do nothing but get the Americans more on your ass, it accomplishes nothing. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense.
Oh, no, because they're irrational, they're radical, extremist, and they don't care about, sustaining life in their own countries, et cetera.
It makes absolutely no sense.
Sonia, we could talk about this, and I want to come back to some of this because I've got some underwear bombing to talk about, some underpants bombing to talk about here. But, what I want to say is, first of all, note to self, I'm writing this down. Tell Danny Romero to produce a Truth or Girl show here on American Freedom Radio. Now we've got that out of the way. We started in fourth gear with you, Sonia. You just picked right up and ran with the ball. Now let's pretend we're starting at the beginning of the interview and tell us who you are and what your mission is.
Right. Let's get back to that. Okay, I'm a bit of an enigma, right? Because a lot of the time people aren't even sure whether my YouTube channel is satire or whether it's real, It's a bit truth in jest. I mean, the underlying message is real, but the characters bringing it to you are ridiculous a lot of the time.
That's a good setup. You kind of tease my audience. Come on, you feel teased out there? We're going to come back with Sonia from the Truther Girls, tell you how to look at all their great videos. Everyone's watching them. And pick her brain and her nose just a little bit more. Right after this, stay tuned. Deadline Live, AmericanFreedomRadio.com, and all our great affiliates. We'll be right back talking about the Olympic Games. Stay tuned.